Most people think their lives fall apart because of one huge mistake, one dramatic wrong turn, one moment they can look back on and say, that's where it all went downhill. But the truth is, life doesn't usually work that way. The real damage doesn't come from a single crash. It comes from the slow leak. From the tiny habits you repeat every single day, the ones that feel so harmless you barely notice them. They're quiet, they're innocent, they even feel comfortable. And yet, little by little, they steal your energy, your focus, and eventually, the life you thought you were building. That's what makes it so scary. These habits don't walk in the door waving red flags. They sneak in disguised as normal. You're not wrecking your life in some dramatic way. You're just scrolling for a few minutes that turn into hours. You're just putting off one small task for tomorrow. You're just saying yes when you really wanted to say no. All of it looks harmless, even polite, even productive at times. But behind the scenes, every one of those choices chips away at your confidence, your clarity, your future. And the hardest part? You don't realize it until it's too late. One day you look up and wonder why you're exhausted, why you're stuck, why years have passed, and you feel no closer to the life you imagined for yourself. It wasn't one explosion that derailed you. It was the slow drip of habits that felt safe. So here's the real question you have to ask yourself. If nothing changes, how many more years will you lose to routines that look harmless but are quietly sabotaging everything you want? How long will you keep trading the life you could be living for the comfort of habits that are holding you back? Picture the rhythm of an ordinary day. You wake up, shuffle to the desk or kitchen table, sit down, and stay there. Hours slip by in a blur of screens and tasks. Then evening comes, and the couch calls your name. You collapse into it, telling yourself you've earned the rest, and there you stay until it's time for bed. It feels so normal that you don't question it. Everyone lives like this, right? But beneath the surface, your body is staging a quiet protest. Energy starts to dip, moods turn flat, hormones fall out of balance, and the nights you thought would bring recovery only bring restless sleep. We throw around the phrase, sitting is the new smoking, and maybe you've heard it so often that it barely registers anymore. But the truth is even harsher. It's not just your back aching from poor posture or the extra weight creeping on. It's your mind slowing down, your focus becoming foggier, your creativity shrinking until ideas that once flowed now feel stuck behind a wall. Even your resilience, the ability to handle stress, pressure, and setbacks, weakens every time you let stillness become your default state. And here's the trap. Because it feels harmless, you don't notice it happening. Day after day, you're training your body for weakness. Not just the kind you can see in your muscles, but the invisible kind that shows up in your confidence, in your decisions, in the way you show up to life. A body that doesn't move becomes a mind that doesn't lead. The fix isn't complicated, but it requires intention. You don't need to become an athlete overnight. You need to remember that movement is fuel, not decoration. A 10-minute walk clears the fog. Stretching resets your posture. Lifting weights builds not just strength, but identity. Sweat reminds you that your body is alive, capable, and designed for more than sitting. Because when you move your body, you're not just exercising. You're reclaiming the energy, the focus, and the momentum that make everything else in your life possible. The alarm goes off, and without even thinking, your hand reaches out. Not for water, not to stretch, not to breathe in the morning air. For your phone, that glowing rectangle becomes the first thing your eyes see, the first thing your brain swallows. And in that single action, you've already handed over control of your day. Before your feet even hit the ground, you've opened the door to notifications, opinions, problems that aren't even yours to solve. 5 minutes into the day and your mind is already running, not toward your goals, but toward distractions. And then the night comes. You tell yourself you'll just check one more message, watch one more clip, scroll for a few minutes until you feel tired. But those minutes stretch into hours. Your eyes sting, your neck aches, and still you're scrolling, as if the next swipe will finally give you peace. You fall asleep with your phone pressed against your face, like it's some kind of lifeline, when really, it's the very thing cutting you off from real rest. The danger isn't obvious in the moment. It feels harmless. But your brain is being rewired with every swipe. Cheap dopamine trains it to crave stimulation, not focus. Blue light tricks it into staying awake when it should be winding down. And slowly, you lose your edge, mental clarity, creativity, patience, even your ability to be still. The phone becomes less of a tool and more of a leash. The solution isn't to run away to some digital detox retreat in the mountains. It's much simpler and much harder. It's discipline. Moving your phone out of reach at night so you don't cradle it to sleep. Creating space in the morning to breathe, to think, to set the tone for the day before the noise floods in. Treating your phone for what it was always meant to be, a tool. Not a babysitter for your mind, not a crutch for your boredom, not the master of your attention. Because the moment you reclaim control from that little screen, you reclaim control of your time, your focus, and your life. We live in a world that praises the grind, the late nights, the early mornings, the idea that pushing yourself past the point of exhaustion somehow proves your worth. We glorify the hustle and shame rest as if it's weakness. We post about sleepless nights like they're trophies, as though running on fumes makes us more committed, more valuable, more successful. But underneath the applause, something is breaking. Because sleep was never meant to be optional. Sleep is fuel, and without it, everything else begins to collapse. The damage doesn't show up all at once. At first, it's just a little fatigue. You shrug it off with another coffee. Then it becomes harder to focus, harder to remember the simple things, harder to think clearly. Soon, your body is running on stress hormones that weren't designed to be switched on day and night. Cortisol spikes. Testosterone drops. Your brain, desperate for rest, starts fogging over. And the cruelest part? You don't notice how much you're losing until you're already deep in the deficit. It's not just about how you feel inside. Lack of sleep spills into how you treat the people you love. Suddenly you're snapping at your partner for no reason, doubting decisions you used to make with ease, resenting the smallest inconveniences. You wake up tired, go through the day tired, go to bed tired, and wonder why joy feels so far away. It isn't that the world changed, it's that your body is begging for rest, and you've ignored it for too long. The truth is, you can't cheat sleep. You can delay it, fight it, try to push through it, but your body always collects the debt. And the interest is steep. Your health, your relationships, your future. That's why sleep isn't something you squeeze in after everything else. It's the foundation everything else depends on. So build a ritual that protects it. Shut down the screens when the night comes. Set an alarm for going to bed, not just for waking up. Create a space that feels like calm instead of chaos. A room where your body knows it can finally let go. Because the day you stop treating sleep as weakness and start honoring it as fuel, that's the day you stop just surviving and start becoming sharper, calmer, stronger. You don't just wake up rested. You wake up as a better version of yourself. There's a simple phrase we all repeat that quietly destroys more dreams than failure ever could. I'll do it later. It sounds harmless in the moment. You convince yourself you're just buying time, that you'll tackle it tomorrow when you feel ready, when the timing is better, when you're in the right mood. But later has a way of turning into never. And never, well, that always leads to regret. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Procrastination isn't usually about laziness. It's about fear. Fear of putting yourself out there and falling flat. Fear of looking stupid in front of others. Fear of making the wrong choice and living with the consequences. So instead of facing the fear, you hide. You keep busy, but with the wrong things. You answer emails instead of making the pitch. You clean your desk instead of working on the project. You make endless plans instead of taking the first real step. And it feels productive, but deep down, you know it's just avoidance dressed up as effort. The more you delay, the heavier the task feels. What started as something small begins to loom larger and larger in your mind. That phone call you could have made in 2 minutes now feels like climbing a mountain. That first page you needed to write now feels like an entire book crushing your chest. The monster grows every day you let it sit there, unchallenged. But the cure is simpler than you think. You don't need a grand plan or a perfect moment. You need small, messy action. Send the email, even if it's rough. Make the call, even if your voice shakes. Write the first sentence, even if it isn't brilliant. Because action creates momentum, and momentum makes the next step easier, and then the one after that. Perfection won't move you forward. Progress will. And once you break the cycle, you'll realize the monster in your head was never as big as you thought. It was just waiting for you to take the first swing. We're taught from the time we're young that kindness is a virtue, that generosity makes us good, that helping others is the right thing to do. And it is. wanting to be kind, wanting to be generous, wanting to be there for people. Those are beautiful qualities. But somewhere along the way, kindness can twist into something else. It stops being about giving and starts being about erasing yourself. You say yes when your whole body is screaming no. You downplay your own needs just to keep the peace. You shrink so that others don't feel uncomfortable. And slowly, piece by piece, you disappear. The danger is that it doesn't feel like harm. You tell yourself you're being selfless, that you're helping, that you're doing the right thing. But deep down, there's a quiet resentment that begins to grow. Because every time you betray your own needs, every time you silence your own voice, every time you play small so others can feel big, you're not being kind. You're betraying yourself. And betrayal always leaves scars, even if no one else can see them. Here's the hard truth. Constantly putting everyone else first doesn't make you noble, it makes you depleted. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't be strong for others when you're running on fumes. And eventually, the very people you were trying to support will feel the weight of your exhaustion, your quiet resentment, your fading joy. The solution isn't to stop helping people. It's to stop sacrificing yourself at every turn. Boundaries aren't walls meant to push people away. They're guardrails that protect your energy, your peace, your identity. They're what allow you to say, I will help you, but not at the expense of myself. And that isn't selfish, that's survival. Because when you're grounded, when you're energized, when you're whole, you don't just show up for others, you show up better. You show up fully. And that's the version of you the world actually needs. There's one lie more seductive than all the others, a lie so convincing it feels almost responsible. I'll start when things calm down. I'll start when I have more time. I'll start when the timing is better. It's comforting to believe that a perfect window is just around the corner, that someday the chaos will settle and the stars will align, and then you'll finally move on the thing you've been dreaming about. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. That moment never arrives. There will always be something standing in the way. A bill that needs paying. A birthday you can't miss. A distraction pulling at your attention. A doubt whispering that you're not ready. And while you're waiting for the right conditions, life is quietly slipping by. The calendar doesn't pause for your hesitation. The clock doesn't stop ticking just because you're planning to get serious later. Every day you postpone, the opportunity you want drifts further out of reach. We like to think clarity comes first, that once we know exactly what to do, we'll feel brave enough to begin. We like to imagine that confidence shows up before the leap, like a warm blanket to protect us. But it doesn't work that way. Clarity is built in motion. Confidence is forged in the fire of doing. You don't get them before you act. You earn them through action itself. So the shift has to happen in your mind. Stop thinking one day. Start thinking day one. Because messy beginnings are still beginnings. Scary steps are still steps. Even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if you don't feel ready, you move anyway. That's how progress is born. And every day you wait, every day you stall, your dream dies just a little more. Not with a loud crash, but with a slow fade. Until one day you look back and realize you didn't run out of time. You gave it away. That's why the right time is never later. The right time is now. The most dangerous part about these habits is how quietly they move into your life. They don't arrive like enemies. You'd recognize them if they did. Instead, they slip in disguised as comfort, as kindness, as responsibility. They whisper that you're just resting, that you're just being helpful, that you're just waiting for the right moment. And while you're lulled into believing they're harmless, they're robbing you. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Your energy, your focus, your future. But here's the good news. The moment you see them for what they are, you take back your power. Awareness is the key that unlocks the door. Because once you can name the habit, you can change it. You can move your body and feel your energy return. You can treat sleep as fuel and watch your mind clear. You can face the hard thing now instead of hiding from it. You can protect your peace with boundaries that make you stronger. You can start before you're ready and discover that readiness was never the point. It was action all along. The right time isn't waiting for you somewhere down the road. The right time is this moment, right here, today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Today is the first step, and it doesn't matter how small that step looks. What matters is that you take it. And if you're feeling that shift right now, if something in this resonated and helped you see even one habit you're ready to break, then do me a favor. Hit that like button so this message reaches more people. Subscribe so you don't miss the next step in your growth journey. And drop a comment sharing the habit you're leaving behind, because declaring it is the first move toward breaking it. This isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's about deciding that your future is too important to let it be stolen quietly by habits that don't serve you. Your life won't change because of luck or timing. It will change because of the small, deliberate choices you start making today. And your future? It starts the second you decide to stop drifting and start doing. It starts right now.